10 U.S. states that hates Trump supporters. In these 10 states, Trump's agenda is met with fierce resistance, with voters and leaders pushing back against his controversial positions on immigration, healthcare, and the environment. From courtroom showdowns to record-breaking protests, these states have emerged as bastions of resistance, where liberal values come up against Trump's conservative agenda. In these areas, the political divide is unambiguous, and anti-Trump sentiment runs deep, leaving no doubt these states are not going to give in. Number 10. Connecticut. Resistance to Trump has been strong in Connecticut, with the liberal-leaning population of the state rejecting numerous policies implemented by Trump. Biden received 59.3% of the vote in Connecticut in the 2020 election, while Trump garnered only 39.2%. Connecticut leadership has also been at the forefront of opposing Trump's agenda, most notably his positions on healthcare and immigration. Connecticut has witnessed court challenges to Trump policies, including initiatives to safeguard healthcare and preserve immigrant rights. State lawmakers, for instance, have sought to protect Connecticut citizens from the effects of Trump's healthcare reforms, such as the efforts to reverse the Affordable Care Act. Connecticut has also taken active steps in the defense of abortion rights and public health policy, even drawing up laws to secure the protection of residents from potential rollbacks in federal health regulations. Number 9. Oregon. Resistance to Trump has been particularly evident in Oregon's urban hub, Portland. The city became a hub of protests, especially after the death of George Floyd in 2020. Thousands flooded into the streets, seeking justice and calling for an end to police brutality. Portland, which prides itself on progressive values, saw repeated confrontations between protesters and law enforcement, with many of the demonstrations running for months. Protests in Oregon were not merely about reforming the police. Activists called for policies aimed at eradicating systemic racism, affordable housing, and environmental justice. Groups such as the Black Youth Movement and Moms United for Black Lives organized direct action and offered mutual aid to those participating in the protests. Trump's administration, however, often criticized Oregon leaders for being too soft on protesters and not doing enough to restore order. Number 8. Washington. Washington State, which is renowned for its green activism, was a key opponent of Donald Trump's agenda, especially his policies aimed at the environment and immigration. Washington, in 2020, joined other states to oppose Trump's attempt to dismantle environmental protection, such as his move to cancel the Clean Water Act and lower greenhouse gas regulations. The state's court successes were a clear signal of defiance against Trump's policies. The progressive culture of the state, which is based on its belief in climate change measures and social justice, drove the resistance. Indeed, Washington led several lawsuits against Trump's environmental rollbacks and played a crucial role in halting the reduction of national monuments such as Grand Staircase Escalante. On immigration, Washington's officials pledged to safeguard undocumented residents, and hence, it was declared a sanctuary state. Number 7. Illinois. Did you know that Chicago, one of the nation's largest sanctuary cities, has been a fierce battleground against Trump's policies? In Illinois, particularly in its urban centers, resistance to the Trump administration is clear. The state has seen numerous protests, legal challenges, and grassroots movements pushing back on Trump's immigration and environmental policies. Chicago, for instance, has been a major focal point for immigration debates. The city's legal stance, such as the Illinois Trust Act, ensures that local law enforcement cannot collaborate with ICE, protecting undocumented immigrants from potential deportation. This has led to strong opposition from the Trump administration, especially over his aggressive immigration stance. Beyond the legal efforts, there have been large-scale protests, including massive protests against Trump's rhetoric on race and equality. Illinois' progressive culture, rooted in its urban diversity, makes it a stronghold for anti-Trump sentiment, where residents continue to push for policies that champion inclusivity and social justice. Number 6. New York. New York, a liberal stronghold, has been a bastion of resistance to Donald Trump for quite a while. In the 2020 election, a mere 37.7% of voters in New York supported him, one of the lowest rates in the nation. The state's resistance became even more vocal with protests, lawsuits, and vocal political opposition. New York City, being cosmopolitan, has tended to be opposed to Trump's rhetoric, particularly on immigration, race relations, and women's rights. Thousands protested after Trump's divisive travel ban, while the city's politicians expressed strong disapproval of his climate change, healthcare, and LGBTQ+ policies. In addition, lawsuits ran rampant, especially those involving the enforcement of immigration and environmental regulations. New York was also in the lead on the Me Too movement, which energized resistance to Trump after charges of sexual abuse. The state's combative position reflects its increasing distance from Trump's agenda. Number 5. California. California has historically been a state that strongly opposes many of the policies of Donald Trump. During his presidency, California became a legal front to challenge Trump's executive orders, particularly on immigration and environmental policies. Indeed, California sued several times to try to stop Trump's travel bans on Muslim-majority nations and to defend the rights of undocumented immigrants in its sanctuary cities. The state also challenged Trump's efforts to undo environmental protections. California's strict emission standards, which are stricter than federal rules, were constantly challenged by the Trump administration. Despite these challenges, the state achieved several wins in court, maintaining its ability to set rules. For example, California was able to maintain its authority to enforce strict vehicle emission regulations, even when Trump tried to take away these powers. In 2020, Trump's environmental policies were a central source of conflict, as the state's leadership continued to advocate for clean energy and increased protection from pollution. Number 4. Hawaii. Did you know that Hawaii had one of the largest voter support gaps for Trump in 2020? Trump's support in the Aloha state, at just 34.27% of the vote, was one of the lowest in the country, contrasted sharply with Joe Biden's 63.7% victory. Why is Hawaii a Trump-averse state? The reasons are found in its unique cultural and political makeup. Hawaii has one of the most ethnically diverse populations in the U.S., with a large Asian American population. These groups tend to be more liberal in beliefs, embracing policies on healthcare, immigration, and racial equality, all areas where Trump's positions tend to conflict. Additionally, Hawaii's progressive politics, including its emphasis on environmental issues and social justice, don't align with Trump's policies. The state's consistent Democratic lean in recent elections, including the large increase in Biden's margin over 2016, underscores the increasing rejection of Trump's rhetoric and administration. Number 3. Maryland. In Maryland, 32.15% of voters cast their ballots for Donald Trump in 2020. That may sound impressive, but keep in mind that Trump was far outdistanced by Joe Biden, who gained 65.4% of the vote. Maryland's politics are influenced by its large cities, particularly in and around Baltimore and the D.C. metropolitan area, which are heavily Democratic. These areas draw in a more diverse population, often with issues centered around racial equality, healthcare, and climate change, issues that tend to be at odds with Trump's agenda. In addition, Maryland is culturally and politically diverse in its liberalism, and its policies are progressive, creating an environment where dislike of Trump is evident. Maryland voters tend to be more liberal, meaning there is less acceptance of the Trump administration's positions on immigration, race relations, and the environment. This difference in values explains why Maryland is not only a blue state, but a state where Trump supporters tend to be less well-liked. Number 2. Massachusetts. Massachusetts is a strongly Democratic state with little enthusiasm for Donald Trump. During the 2020 election, voters supported Trump in only 32.1% of cases, with 65.6% of the vote going to Joe Biden. The pattern repeated in 2024, when Kamala Harris took 62.5% of the vote against Trump's 34.2%, reflecting a small uptick in his popularity but still keeping Massachusetts in the category of least supportive states for Trump. The state's liberal political climate, formed by its focus on education, healthcare, and social justice, sharply contrasts with Trump's conservative ideology. Massachusetts has some of the country's finest universities, such as Harvard and MIT, that lead to a highly educated citizenry with a tendency to support Democratic candidates. Furthermore, the state's vigorous advocacy of LGBTQ+ rights, climate action, and gun control all poorly match Trump's agendas. Even Massachusetts' Republican governor, Charlie Baker, has frequently taken a step back from Trump, reflecting the state's moderate Republican sentiment. All of these combine to make Massachusetts an inhospitable environment for Trump's base. Number 1. Vermont. Vermont is the most liberal state in the U.S., with consistent opposition to Donald Trump. In 2020, just 30.7% of Vermonters voted for Trump, while 66.1% supported Joe Biden, one of the strongest Democratic states in the country. This continued in 2024, when Kamala Harris carried Vermont with 63.8% of the vote, although Trump picked up slightly more support than in 2020, earning 32.3%. Vermont's progressive beliefs, including its emphasis on environmental protection, universal health care, and social justice, directly conflict with Trump's conservative agenda. Vermont is also extremely educated, with a large percentage of its population holding college degrees, a group that leans Democratic. Vermont's rural but liberal culture, influenced by such figures as Senator Bernie Sanders, further bolsters its opposition to Trump's agenda. Although Trump picked up some support in rural areas such as Essex County, Vermont is still a Democratic stronghold. That's it for today, folks. We'd appreciate it if you would give us your opinion. Comment below and tell us which state shocked you the most. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more of this content. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.